Hello, how are you? Welcome to another podcast episode of Talk Architecture. I'm your host, Naziati Muhammad Yaqub. And today, the topic is architecture a dead and dying industry? Bracket in many parts and close bracket. So there is actually more to this, because this was a comment that someone gave in a Facebook post that I posted on architects suffering from stress and burnout. And it is very interesting that this person mentioned exactly that architecture is a dead and dying industry in many parts. And nobody wants to pay for design when it can just be replicated digitally from something done before. So where does the problem lie if this is true? I would like to give an opinion on this, specifically to answer this comment by this person, because what I'm doing is actually trying to assist architects who are suffering from stress and burnout to get a work-life balance. I'm looking at the industry from the day-to-day situation where architects have to be challenged or are challenged by what's happening around them in the work environment, dealing with clients and other consultants and their own in-house team, their bosses, or they are the boss and they also have issues with burnout. So in general, we have an industry that is different from when the word architect came about, possibly in the 18th century or a bit later. And at that time, the idea of the architect, even from the Renaissance, is a patronage system where there is a rich client and that they commission the architect to do the project. And as you know it, during the Renaissance time, the architect was everything. Michelangelo and all of them, they were also good in many other arts like masonry, jewelry making, metalworks, and other aspects of the building industry. You know, as a building industry at that time, it is something prestigious in a way that the architect is like a person that is bigger than or much more educated than the craftsperson, who are what we would say like subcontractors or contractors that build the building. But they also respect these tradesmen because they are specialized in what they do. But the architect needs to know how to be a tradesman or craftsman before he or she is an architect. Often is a he if it's to do with the Renaissance or even the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. Well, the traditional architect is something that we have known since we were studying architecture in the School of Architecture. We learn of architecture history, theory, and philosophy. And it could be a boring subject if it doesn't have any context given to it, and it's just to do with replicating styles. And in this particular comment that this person did was talking about something that can be replicated digitally from something done before. But the whole process of replicating is not the only process. I mean, if there have been replicas or copying of other buildings, especially in the classical revival age, when they replicated the antiquities, in the 18th century, for example, in Europe. During the Renaissance, they would use the classical orders and manipulate that to create buildings. Architecture, or the architect, yes, they interpret. I wouldn't say replicate per se, And if we have designs, we have artificial intelligence now. Put in a few words, a few images, and presto, you have something. But you still need to convince the client or someone who's going to fork out money for your professional service, to be, assured that you can handle the job to build the thing, to build the architecture building for them. How are they going to be convinced to do that? I mean, one thing is you can replicate, but can you actually interpret? Can you actually be a project manager, be the designer, be someone who would do a good design and not be botching up the job? I mean, all you have to do is replicating. That is the first instance that you'll be doing, but you'll be wary what you're replicating as well. Much of this specialized or skill of knowing or editing knowing what to do or doing the editing work or interpretation work, it's not something that I would like to say that something that you would be better at it due to the experience that you have. And that's what we teach students of architecture, keep on doing many types of projects and many challenges for them to sharpen their skills and to be ready for the industry. So, yes, in a way, I would agree with what was commented that architecture or the architecture design is out there, and it's so difficult. In the issue of intellectual capital, in the issue of intellectual property, it is difficult for the architect to defend or to claim for the rights of the original or the copyright of the design. Because in some countries, it's not covered. For example, there is a replica of Zaha Hadid's building I believe it's in China, but it's not, then they were not able to claim the rights to that design, in the sense that there's always a tweak that could be done. If it follows the form of the design in a sketch, I mean, what can you copyright? The sketch, the drawing? Because it is made of many copyrights. Like a building has a lot of copyrights in it, meaning the lighting, the other equipment that is in that building, and the finishes. There are these comes from different other people who sell that because they need to build the building, who sold it. So, but the architect put together all these other copyrights and make their own quote unquote copyright, which it is not in their best interest to go and claim for their rights, because the law doesn't cover their rights to the architectural building. Is it to do the building process that somebody copied, and then you could always tweak something, and it's difficult to claim, really. Have you heard of architects being able to claim from others their original design? And some architect would be chuffed and quietly feel happy about it, because in a way that is some sort of a compliment to their design. When we talk about copyrights, the nearest to architecture or sketching or drawing is, of course, the work of art by the original artist, in which there's a lot of reproduction or replicating original artist's work in prints, and even that is done to prevent stolen artwork. In the graphic art and fine art area or industry, I would assume that replication is rife there. And in architecture is more difficult because it's not a singular work of art. And if you want to focus on a singular work of art, it is the drawing, the original drawing that the architect drew. And then what is it worth to claim for that? It's not to do with the building, obviously. So there are many things that this person commented. One is the dead and dying industry. My view about the dead and dying industry is that architects' role has changed. Like I mentioned about the traditional architect's role and how they do everything. And they even project manage, obviously, if it's a big architectural company with a sizable project going on, which they can manage. Or sometimes the client has his own project manager or appoint a separate project management because of the nature of the contract. So everybody has agreed to sign that contract and do the work, and everybody's happy. So, in cases such as a bungalow or a design for a home, it's straightforward with a team of consultants and contractor that is in charge. A smaller project is more manageable. And if you are a sole proprietor or someone who is self-employed, having your own company and very few assistants, that would be right down your alleyway, because if it's a premium sort of a building that has substantial amount of money that can tide you over for that year, so you'll be happy to do that if you like the nature of that job. So there's a variety of contracts and approach to architectural design. And for someone who's self-employed or has a little company, they wouldn't want to replicate anything, want to make it as original as possible. Pressed for time, it would be just a sketch to convince during the consultation with the client to create the client's brief, obviously. So architecture can be argued to be something by law, because you need an architect to process or to deal with the legalities of the building design and the building, subsequently the contract implementation stage and so on. By law, you need to engage an architect. So if it's a dying industry, then you're looking at not only the architect, you're looking at all the other aspects of the industry. When this poster mentioned in many parts, maybe he has more ideas. But after I present my opinion here, I would like to say that I don't think architecture is a dead and dying industry, although there may be many problems. And I do worry that the architect is because of a lot of issues, we can't say just one issue, that they resorted to artificial intelligence and or replicating something digitally from another design. I would say that the architect is breaching the law. There is some sort of at least a gentleman's, or they call it gentleman or gentle person, agreement that you don't do that. That is something that is not on, because you do have a network of people that you work with, and you wouldn't want your design to be viral and accused of replicating somebody else's design. So yeah, that's my answer to that. And if the person who posted in the Facebook page have heard all my points and would like to reply, that's great. But in general, I just give this opinion to everyone else who is listening in, and thank you for listening in, and have a good day.